Tensions in the South China Sea are once again drawing global attention as the disputed waters around Scarborough Shoal become the latest flashpoint between China and the Philippines. What was once primarily a fishing ground for local communities has now turned into one of Asia's most sensitive geopolitical hotspots where military exercises, Coast Guard confrontations, and competing territorial claims are colliding in increasingly dangerous ways. At the center of the latest standoff are the annual Balikatan military exercises, the largest joint drills ever conducted by the Philippines and the United States. This year's exercises involve more than 17,000 troops, along with participation from allied countries including Japan, Australia, Canada, France, and New Zealand. The drills include live-fire exercises, maritime defense operations, missile deployments, and simulations designed to strengthen coordination between allied forces in the Indo-Pacific region. But while military officials describe the exercises as defensive in nature, Beijing views them very differently. China has sharply criticized the growing military cooperation between Manila and Washington, calling the exercises provocative and destabilizing. In response, Chinese naval and Coast Guard vessels have intensified patrols near Scarborough Shoal, a disputed atoll located roughly 200 kilometers west of the Philippine island of Luzon. Chinese Coast Guard ships, maritime militia vessels, and surveillance aircraft now regularly patrol the area. Filipino fishermen operating near the shoal often report being chased away, blocked, or intimidated while trying to access traditional fishing grounds their families have relied on for generations. For local fishing communities, the issue is not simply about geopolitics or military rivalry. It is about survival. Many fishermen from coastal provinces such as Zambales and Pangasinan depend heavily on the rich waters around Scarborough Shoal. The area is known for abundant fish stocks and also serves as a shelter during storms and rough weather. Losing access to these waters has placed enormous pressure on already struggling communities. In recent years, tensions have repeatedly escalated at sea. There have been dangerous encounters involving water cannons, laser incidents, close-range maneuvers, and collisions between vessels. Philippine authorities accuse China of using Grayzone tactics, actions designed to pressure rivals without triggering outright military conflict. These tactics often involve large Coast Guard ships or maritime militia boats surrounding smaller civilian vessels, blocking routes or establishing floating barriers near disputed areas. The Philippines has strongly condemned such actions, arguing that they violate international law and threaten the safety of Filipino fishermen. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has taken a firmer stance on the South China Sea dispute compared to previous Philippine administrations. Under his leadership, Manila has expanded security cooperation with the United States and other allies while increasing patrols and surveillance operations in contested waters. At the same time, the Philippines insists it is not seeking confrontation. Officials in Manila say the goal is to strengthen deterrence and protect national sovereignty rather than provoke conflict. However, the growing military presence in the region is creating fears that even a small accident could rapidly spiral into a larger crisis. This year's Balikatan exercises are particularly significant because of their scale and location. One of the most closely watched developments was the deployment of advanced anti-ship missile systems by U.S. forces in northern parts of the Philippines. Military analysts say the deployment sends a strong signal about allied readiness amid rising tensions not only in the South China Sea but also near Taiwan. China has reacted aggressively to these developments. Chinese military aircraft and naval units have reportedly carried out combat readiness patrols near Scarborough Shoal during the exercises. State media in China accused the Philippines of allowing foreign powers to increase military pressure in the region. Beijing maintains that its activities near the shoal are lawful and defensive, insisting that the territory has historically belonged to China. But the dispute is not only about history. The South China Sea is one of the world's most strategically important waterways. Trillions of dollars in global trade pass through the region every year, and the sea is believed to contain vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and marine resources. Control over disputed features like Scarborough Shoal could significantly expand military reach and influence across the region. That is one reason why the area has become such a major focus of international attention. The United States has repeatedly reaffirmed its defense commitments to the Philippines under their Mutual Defense Treaty. Washington says any armed attack on Philippine military forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea could trigger treaty obligations. This has added another layer of complexity to the dispute. Any serious confrontation involving Chinese and Philippine forces could potentially draw in the United States, raising fears of a broader regional conflict. Despite those concerns, confrontations at sea continue to occur with alarming frequency. Philippine maritime officials say Chinese vessels often shadow or obstruct resupply missions and patrol operations near disputed waters. Videos released by Philippine authorities over the past year have shown dangerous maneuvers by larger Chinese ships operating close to smaller Philippine vessels. China, meanwhile, accuses the Philippines of deliberately provoking incidents with support from outside powers. Chinese officials argue that military alliances and foreign deployments are destabilizing the region and increasing the risk of conflict. Beijing insists that disputes in the South China Sea should be resolved through direct negotiations rather than international pressure or military partnerships. However, trust between the two sides remains extremely fragile. Diplomatic efforts over the years have failed to produce a lasting solution to the Scarborough Shoal dispute. While the Philippines won a major legal victory in 2016 through an international arbitration ruling that rejected China's sweeping territorial claims, Beijing refused to recognize the decision. As a result, the legal ruling changed little on the water. China continues to maintain a dominant presence around the shoal, while Filipino fishermen remain caught in the middle of the confrontation. Environmental concerns are also becoming increasingly important in the dispute. Both sides have accused each other of damaging fragile coral reefs and marine ecosystems in the South China Sea. China recently announced measures aimed at protecting the environment around Scarborough Shoal, but Philippine officials rejected the move, saying it was being used to strengthen Chinese control over disputed territory. Marine experts warn that escalating confrontations and increased vessel traffic could cause long-term ecological damage in one of the region's most biodiverse marine areas. But for fishermen navigating these waters every day, immediate survival remains the bigger concern. Many say they continue returning to the shoal despite the risk because they have few other options. Some describe encounters with large Coast Guard ships as deeply intimidating, especially when small wooden fishing boats find themselves surrounded by heavily equipped vessels, yet they continue going back. Fishing near Scarborough Shoal is not only a source of income for many families, it is also part of a way of life that has existed for generations. Security experts warn that the South China Sea dispute is entering a more dangerous phase because military operations and civilian activity are now overlapping more frequently. Warships, Coast Guard vessels, surveillance aircraft, and fishing boats are all operating in close proximity inside contested waters. In such an environment, the possibility of miscalculation remains extremely high. A collision, an accidental injury, or even a misunderstanding at sea could quickly trigger a larger diplomatic or military crisis. That risk is precisely why the latest Balikatan exercises are being watched so closely across the region. For the Philippines, the drills demonstrate growing international support and improved defense coordination with allies.
For China, they represent a direct challenge near waters Beijing considers strategically vital. And for countries across Asia, the situation is becoming a critical test of regional stability. The South China Sea has long been shaped by competing territorial claims involving multiple countries, including China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei.
But Scarborough Shoal has emerged as one of the most symbolic and volatile points in the wider dispute. Its importance goes far beyond geography. Who controls the shoal could influence military access, regional influence, fishing rights, and freedom of navigation across one of the busiest maritime corridors in the world. As tensions continue rising, many observers fear the region may be approaching a dangerous turning point. The combination of military exercises, aggressive patrols, alliance politics, and nationalist rhetoric is creating an atmosphere where compromise becomes increasingly difficult. Still, both China and the Philippines publicly say they want to avoid war. The challenge is that actions on the water often tell a more complicated story. Every new patrol, every close encounter, and every military exercise increases pressure in an already unstable environment. And while governments debate sovereignty and strategy, ordinary fishermen remain on the front line of a conflict they did not create. For now, Scarborough Shoal remains a symbol of unresolved tensions in the South China Sea, a place where global power competition, national security, and economic survival are colliding in real time. And as military activity intensifies around the disputed waters, the fear growing across the region is simple: the next confrontation may not end as peacefully as the last one.